everyone. I'm Kim Chiarello, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Hopefully it's the right screen. It's a zoomed out version of Miro. Please give me a thumbs up or a head nod that you're actually seeing my screen. Awesome sauce. Thank you so much. So I'm zoomed out right now to show us that we're going to be meandering throughout our time together today. And also experimenting as well. With that, I'm going to, I didn't want to do that. All right, let's get into presentation mode. There, that's much better. So tonight we're talking about 5 valuable tools for your Agile leadership toolbox. And I have my Twitter and LinkedIn information there. Definitely welcome you all connecting with me to share, to ask questions, to continue the conversation. So thank you. Thanks for spending your non-work time with us tonight so we can have some great conversation. As Sherry said, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. You can also do the raise your hand. When I'm in screen sharing mode, I can't see every person, but hopefully Sherry can help me with that for questions, and I will stop for questions once in a while. The other thing I want to say before I proceed is I'm actually experimenting tonight. So I'm hoping you're all open and willing to experiment with me like we talk about in Agile. So normally I pick a topic and dive deep on it. And tonight I'm covering 5 topics. So it's going to be an overview. I'm using the metaphor of we're going to our favorite restaurant and we're going to go to a buffet and we're going to be sampling from the buffet. And the whole idea of this is to give some ideas of things you might want to go dig in deeper on your own, or I'm glad to come back here and dig in deeper. One of the Agile Meetup groups already invited me back to dig in deeper on tool number 1. So glad to do that as well. So it's a little bit different, and it is going to be like drinking from a fire hose, as we say. It's going to be a lot. So you'll definitely have access to the recording as well as the PDF afterwards, and feel free to screenshot to your heart's desires here. So I got to move. There we go. Move the windows out of my way. So for me, high level, this is a mind map applied to personal introductions, which is a Jürgen Appelo Management 3.0 Agile leadership technique. And I'm a Management 3.0 facilitator as well. Thought this would be fun to do. And this is great to do with teams, even existing long-standing teams, to help them get to know each other better, and then they can work better together. So I'm going to start at 12 o'clock here at the top part of the slide. I'm a certified facilitator, and then move around the clock. I'm also a trainer, training leadership classes, facilitation, conflict resolution, Agile, Kanban, Agile at scale, SAFe, etc. classes. As I mentioned before, I'm an independent Agile coach. Coaching, I've lost track, over 10 years, more than 15 transformations at the enterprise leadership program and team levels. I'm also a mediator and a conflict resolution consultant, and I'm a leadership coach and executive coach. So that's all my work stuff, and my fun stuff continuing down around the clock here. When I'm not at work, I love to meditate, do yoga, wild crafting, which is actually harvesting plants and weeds that grow wild and that are very nutritious for us. And I also do organic vegetable gardening, swimming, comedy, improv, which I'm still learning. So you're not going to get any jokes from tonight. You'd probably go, and of course, I love to hike as well. So it's all a little bit about me, and I need to, oh, this is fun. Zoom has decided to go. I got to move my Zoom bar. There we go. It's not letting me advance the slides. There we go. So why are we talking about this tonight? because we're all leaders in our lives. Like Simon Sinek says, followers want to be taken care of, leaders want to take care of others, and we can all be leaders in our lives. So he's written probably a handful of books. My favorite is Leaders Eat Last. It was life-changing for me. So I say, if you only read one book this year. But enough of that. The other reason we're here today, and the Zoom bar is getting in my way. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Okay. It won't go to the left. It's the people aspects, right? People aspects will make or break an organization. We want to do a quick little chat blast here. How many people have seen it, you know, in your past career or current career? Just a yes or a no about people aspects, seeing people who are brilliant, people who are super nice, but the team, the department, the organization just can't get anything done, or it takes forever to get anything done, even though they're so brilliant. It's those like people aspects of things. Let's see if I'm seeing a yes and. Yeah. So this has kind of been my thing for a long time, but now I've put together some things we can think about. So there we go. Send it back. So as you've probably already heard the saying, meet them where they're at. And I add and invite them to take the next small step forward. And that's what these 5 tools are about. The more we can meet others, whether they're individuals, teams, departments, the entire organization, leadership, the more we can meet them where they're at, the more we can get done, right? We have better communication, we have less miscommunication, we have less conflicts, and just better brainstorming, better innovation and whatnot. So that's the why of these 5 tools. So let's get into it. And so I want to acknowledge here, this is kind of like our main go-to screen. And sorry, this Zoom bar is really bothering me. If you could only see what I see. Anyway, at the top here in gray is like foundation leadership skills. So we're not talking about those tonight. We're assuming we've already checked those boxes. We're going to the next level, those people aspect things. And these 5 tools have to do with the people aspects. So the first one is organizational evolution. So what do we mean by that? And why do we have to think so hard? So the TLDR, too long didn't read, is organizational evolution is based on spiral dynamics with Don Beck and Christopher Cowan, and integral theory with Ken Wilber. We all have aspects of these stages of evolution, and the goal is to integrate the stages, hence Ken Wilber calling it integral theory. And the other thing to note is that entire organizations, divisions, teams, individuals can all hang out at different stages, even though you are incorporating the stages that have come beforehand. So we want to kind of, again, meet them where they're at. We want to suss out where they might be so that we can meet them where they're at. We don't get those funny faces like that first slide I was showing you all, like you're explaining Agile and you get this where you can potentially get some more understanding. So I'm going to continue on this Miro board here. This is a picture of spiral dynamics. There's 7 stages. You start at stage 1. You can't skip stages. Then you go to stage 2, integrating stage 1. You go to stage 3, you're integrating stage 1 and 2, and so on and so forth. We're not getting into all the stages tonight. That can be like a several hour course or several day. Anyway, what I'm really wanting to show you here is, you see here at the right, I say in pink, most of the organizations are at 4, 5, and 6 stages. And in particular, most agile organizations are at 5 and 6. There's a lot of reasons why organizations at 4 are not agile. But that's a story for another day. But today I want to give us a high level of what orange, a lot of us agilists will just say orange or green instead of stage 5 or 6, what they look like and how they might act differently, speak differently. They have different concerns and focuses. And so how you can better meet them where they're at. So I'm going to shift us to the right here. Oh, good. I went the right way. And let's zoom us in a little bit. Send to back. So here's high level of orange and green. So the big takeaway for orange is they're achievement and results driven. So what does that look like? They're competitive, they're data driven, they want to predict and plan, they're individual centric, right? What accolades am I getting? What certifications do I have? How amazing is our organization compared to others? And when we go to green, which is the next stage, green incorporates all the healthy, hopefully healthy and positive parts of orange into them. So they care about those things as well. And their main focus, the thing they value the most, like we talk about in Agile, is that they're pluralistic and relationship driven. What does that look like? They're focused on consensus and empowerment. They're appreciating diversities of all kinds, whether it's culture, religion, gender, you name it. And they want to have an inspirational purpose for their product, for their company's existence. A great example is Southwest Airlines. They don't say their purpose is, well, we're an airline company, right? What they say is their inspirational purpose is, we give people freedom. We give people freedom to travel to places they would not otherwise be able to afford to go to, right? Them being a lower cost airlines. So that is their meaningful purpose. And green is a little bit more world centric. So those companies are more interested in how are we giving back? Are we supporting environmental and civil rights kinds of organizations? Are we having solar panels on the roof of our buildings and those kinds of things? It's what they value more. Whereas maybe an orange company would say, that sounds nice. When our profits are high enough, maybe we'll consider it. A little bit different there. I know this is a lot, and I know this is high level. So I'm going to go to a hopefully a simple example, which will hopefully help things start to kind of solidify. So here's my email signature, and it's highlighted in orange because it's for orange companies and orange people. You'll notice it has all of the things I kind of mentioned to you on my intro slide, and it has all my certifications. Why? Because orange is achievement focused. So they do care to see what certifications you have. Does green care about it? Yeah, but it's not as high a value to them. And I'm going to flip to them real quick, which is right above here, the green. Send to back. You see with green, I don't have the certifications listed because it's not of high importance to them. They probably will look at it, like on my LinkedIn or something like that. They understand that anyone can get a certification. What they want to know is, can you apply what you learned, and how much experience do you have applying it, right? So they're weighting that more, I guess we'll say, right? Orange companies definitely care about your experience, but they don't care so much about your experience if you don't have certifications or degrees to back it up. If that makes sense. We've probably all heard of like Google and and whatnot, hiring people who have never been to college. They're hiring them because they see all the coding and whatnot they've done, and they know how amazing those people are. They know they have the experience. So they don't care too much about whether you have a college degree or not. So that's more green in that respect. Whereas an orange company would be like, you don't have a degree, we're not even going to interview you for a first interview. Right. So now I'm going to take a breath. This is tool number 1. I'll zoom out a bit. Anyone have questions, want to do the hand raise, want to come off mute, or put something in the chat as well? I'll zoom out a bit here too. Let's see. Okay. Wondering if when people want to throw out in the chat, is some of this starting to percolate and start to like, oh, this is shedding some light on some of the leaders I've worked with, some of the teams or some of my coworkers, like, oh, now I know why they're giving me a funny look while I'm maybe explaining Agile to them in a green way, whereas they might want it more in an orange way. Hey, we have a 50% reduction in critical production bugs. They would care more about that versus, hey, in general, we have a higher quality product and the customer's more pleased, or something to that effect, right? Explain things differently.
So is it an organizational trait or individual? I mean, I would imagine within an organization, there's some of both.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People can be at all different levels. So the organization usually would be orange, probably, right? Because organizations are bigger things. They take longer time to evolve. Whereas you find more team level folks and teams are more at green level. We're like, oh, we got this Agile thing and we want to do it. Let's go, right? And you can have orange teams as well, that's for sure. So it's each individual can be at a different stage. Each team in general can be at a different stage. The department, or if we're talking safe, the release train could be at a different stage. Individual executive leaders can be different. So you would explain things to them in a different way, right? You want to talk about more of the facts and figures and the accomplishments if they're more orange, whereas green understands that if I'm caring relationally about the person, their health and well-being, that's going to get us all of these things that orange cares about. That makes sense. I'm seeing a hand raised, but I also see a question in the chat. So that was one in the chat, I think was first. Do you find a correlation between these tiers and organizational structure? Matrix organizations are more likely to be green. Matrix organizations probably are more likely to be orange. But it's in general. I have a great example of, like, for interviewing, right? Green companies will do a more behavioral interview of wanting you to they want to have the culture fit, and they figure they can teach you anything technically. There will be technical parts of your interview, especially if you're a developer for a green company, but your first interviews are you a culture fit? That's how they weed people out. Whereas first interviews with an orange company is more about, like, what's your degrees? What are your certifications? How many years have you been doing that job? And that's kind of that's like the initial interview versus there might not be any cultural part of the interview with an orange company. I don't know if that's answering your question or not. Let me know. You can come off mute. And John, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
No worries.
Time zones are different in Australia. I've just actually gone through this with a major government organization over here, where I've come in as a contractor, but I have to abide by their email boxes, right? They don't even think of this stuff. It's set by HR or people. and possibly even in there, they're HR rather than people centric. They don't know what they're missing in many respects. Do you find that, Kim, in when these standards are set by people who don't understand organizational evolution?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for asking that question, right? Some people have asked me, like, are you trying to teach the organizations about organizational evolution? No. An orange stage organization probably wouldn't care, right? They wouldn't see the value. Like, where do we get profit from this, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a green stage organization does, and we would talk about that, seeing if there's parts of the organization that was orange, how to better, right, relate, because they're caring about relational things. And then coming into a company where they're, I'm an independent consultant, right? If they're more orange, I'm going to talk to them that way. So I would never say, like, collaboration is a good thing, right? Most green stage people are like, yeah, you don't need to explain it, get it, moving on. Whereas with if I'm talking to orange organization, I would say collaboration is going to get you higher quality, because more eyes are better, right? 4 eyes are better than 2, 6 eyes are better than 2 as well. We're going to catch things faster, as well as when they're collaborating and working together, they're brainstorming, it will actually be more innovative. So you're going to please your customers, which can lead to higher profits.
No, it's just interesting. It's basically an orange organization. It's a scientific research, and we're talking billions of dollars, not hundreds of millions, billions.
Yep.
I've been asked to take all my certifications off.
You've been asked to take them off.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe they think, yeah,
there's nobody there thinking this way. That's what I'm saying. And it's prescriptive by a management hierarchy within this government-led organization.
Well, there can be facets, that's for sure. But also it could be coming from a maybe less healthy approach of we don't want people to put their certifications, because then maybe some people look better than me and I'm their boss.
Oh, I think there's a lot of
And
that.
they're feeling insecure about it. Right?
Yeah, this in a scientific silo. This is the organization that invented Wi-Fi, by the way, around the world, and still getting they've achieved stuff just doing it the basic way, in that sense, rather than leverage this sort of grouping of relationships and so on.
You're hitting on a key point, is the why of the situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's for sure as well. On the other end of the spectrum, I've submitted resumes or even email signatures that had my whole alphabet soup to green organizations, and they're like, why are you hiding behind all these certifications? What can you really do? Do you have any real experience? Some of them have said that to me.
and that's a good point.
Yeah.
I've interviewed a lot of SAFE qualified people who had SAFE certifications all through their CV.
Yes.
They weren't experiential. And as soon as you ask them, what have you done? They just collapse.
Right. Whereas Green Stage understands, right? They have my LinkedIn, they have my Twitter. They can see where all my certifications are. It's also in my CV as well. I just don't call it out in my signature line. That type of thing. It's where you focus, right? If I was with an orange company and I was focusing on all my experience without emphasizing the certifications and how long I had them, they'll just tune out immediately. They'll tune out immediately. Thank you. Great questions. All right. And also one more thing before I leave this slide, I do have reference slides for each tool. I'll let you do a screenshot at the end. Of course, you'll have the recording and you'll have a PDF as well. So I'm going to, for time's sake, move on. So we're moving around our buffet, our metaphorical buffet. Our second tool out of the 5 for our valuable Agile leadership tools that have to do with the people aspects is healthy conflict resolution. Of course, I'm a mediator and a conflict resolution consultant. So that is near and dear to my heart. Why are we talking about this? Well, conflict happens, and conflict doesn't necessarily mean yelling. It could mean I want pizza for lunch, you want a sandwich for lunch, and we decided to go out to lunch together. Now, what are we going to do? And the skills we use to resolve that are the skills we use when it is, no, we should focus on this initiatives for the year. No, we should focus on these. No, we should focus on these epics and features for the quarter. No, we should focus on these. Or at a team level, we should split the story this way. No, we should split it that way. Right? When things get a little bit more dense. So I have two light bulbs here. One, of course, is from a high level. If the organization would provide conflict resolution skills, workshops, just as standard training for all the employees, that would help before things get tense, right? These are people skills that are super important, right? We can make or break the organization. The second one, which I think is really awesome, is adding a section to your team agreements of how do we want to be when conflict happens. And I have executives do team agreements as well, not just team level folks and everyone in between. And I find that a lot of teams who have a lot of conflict don't have any team agreements at all set up, right? Because now we're having miscommunications, misunderstandings. We all have different expectations that are unspoken. So super, super important. What's my next? I numbered these so I'd remember where to go next. So what do we have here? So here's a great example, and a lot of teams will use this as reference. Two graduate students studying for exams in the library. One wants the window open and one wants the window closed. So you're probably thinking to yourself right now, there's no solution because a half-opened window is still an opened window. So the student B is not getting their needs met who wants the window closed. So you might say, Kim, you know what? Some things there's just no resolution for. And that's true. There are some things that do not have resolutions, but it's a lot smaller amount than you would think. And there is a solution for this that works for both of them. So I hope now the wheels are turning in the brain and you're like, what? So how they came to a solution is by using a conflict resolution 101 approach, which is finding out the why. So student A, why do you want the window open? Well, I want the window open because I'm feeling tired and I still have a lot more studying to do for exams, and I want that to help keep me awake. Okay. Student B, why do you want the window closed? Well, I want it closed because I'm afraid of catching cold for my exams and I don't want to draft. Okay, so now we have the whys and now we can start brainstorming possible solutions. So the solution they came up with was they opened a window in an adjoining room. So student A got the fresh air and student B did not get a draft. So I have a lot of teams that once they learn this example and things start getting tense, they'll say, is this a two graduate student scenario, right? Where we think there's not a solution, but we need to really find out the whys. So it's a great use of things for folks to see and consider. We're not going to go through this now, but just so you know, it's there and you can do a screenshot if you'd like. Jürgen Appelo, Management 3.0, has a 4-minute video on YouTube. The link is across the bottom about the feedback wrap, and it can be used for conflict as well, right? His example there is he has people not answering his emails in a timely manner, which is preventing him from doing his work, right? That's a conflict. And how can I give them feedback in order to get them to answer my emails? So something to look at offline sometime if you would like. Yeah. So again, this is a quick blush. Training to be a mediator takes a long time. not a couple minutes. So is this shedding some light on some scenarios for your work life? You can put in the chat, yes, no. And I'm seeing if there's any questions as well on this one. In the references, I do have 2 other conflict resolution approaches. There's many out there. Pick one, practice. Practice when it's easy. I want pizza for lunch. You want a sandwich for lunch. It's more challenging to do it when folks are triggered. That's for sure. Okay, onwards and upwards. So going around our metaphorical buffet, getting a little bit more full, we're moving on to our next tool number 3, which is attachment theory. And I guess we're also pushing our growing learning edges as well. So why are we talking about attachment theory for the workplace? So attachment theory first comes from the psychology community. It's how a child attached with their primary caregiver, usually a parent. And the why of it is it impacts our adult relationships, and that includes our business relationships. So there's 4 main attachment styles, and we all have pieces of all 4. One is secure attachment. Then we have 3 insecure attachments: avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized. Avoidant can be dismissive or fear of closeness. Ambivalent is fear of abandonment. Disorganized is actually from unresolved trauma, so they can actually show both avoidant or ambivalent, depending on what's going on. So what I have starred here for some more takeaways is one, we have all 4. I said that before. The styles, attachment styles fall on a spectrum. So, from lower to higher, showing more of one than the other, and they're changeable, which leads to the next star. We can all learn and grow secure attachment skills. So this isn't like your IQ, where that's pretty much what it is. This is things like personal growth. We can learn and grow. And I want to share one more thing here before going into an example. This is a great quote, sent to back, of what are the roots of attachment theory. It's in questions like, am I safe? What's next? How am I doing? Which really means, do I belong? Am I accepted? Do they like me? And we all think of these questions from time to time, some more than others. And it's just showing, again, the whole idea of our talk tonight is the people aspects and how can we meet people where they're at. We're not diagnosing, we are not assessing. We're just saying, hey, I think they lean a little bit more this way, and how can I better approach them to have that better communication, to reduce misunderstandings, and get some great stuff done together. So here's my example. Needing to ask a coworker a question, and I'm going to zoom out so that you can see both. I got to zoom out a little more, I think. Both the definitions, the high-level definitions, and the actual question here. So the example is, I need to ask a coworker a question, and I think the coworker is leaning a little bit more towards that avoidant attachment style. And avoidant folks need time to transition from one task to another, what they're focusing on to something else. So if I just stop by someone's desk, or I shot them an IM, like, I have a question and here's my question, they're probably going to be a little agitated or irritated because I've interrupted whatever they're doing, and they really are like focusing. So a way for me to approach someone that I suspect might be a little bit higher on an avoidant attachment style would be to reach out to them and say, hey, I've got a question that I'd love to chat with you about sometime today. can you let me know when you might have some time for us to chat? So this is giving them the opportunity to say, yeah, I just need 15 minutes to finish up this thought, or I need 2 hours to finish up this thought, and I'll come reach out to you. Right? So now I'm going to give situation number 2. I'm needing to ask a coworker a question, and I feel like they fall a little bit more on the ambivalent attachment style. And with the fear of abandonment, that can show up as really wanting to connect to others. So wanting to connect to others is a secure attachment, but taking it to the more extreme of maybe people pleasing would be what an ambivalent might do. So as a coworker, as a leader, going to someone to ask a question that's more toward the ambivalent side, they could be working on some critical time urgent task. And you say, I have a question. They're going to put everything down and turn and go, okay, what's your question? I want to help you, right? They're really wanting to connect. So being aware of that possibility, I would approach a person that I'm suspecting might be higher on the spectrum for ambivalent. And I would say something like this. I don't have a time urgent question. So whenever you're finished working on anything that is, time urgent, can you ping me sometime later today or this week, whatever it is for me, so that we can go over the question? Do you see the differences between those two scenarios? I don't know if I'm seeing any thumbs up, any yeses in the chat there.
I like those examples, Kim.
Yeah, so it can be applied in many different ways, right? Whether it's a coworker, whether it's a different team that's under a lot of stress and feeling like they need to yes everybody, or else they're not going to get their promotions, or they're going to get laid off, or whatever it might be. It's great to be aware of this. And again, in the reference material, I have more wording to the different styles, as well as some reference links if you're wanting to dig in a little bit more on that.
Definitely run into all 3 of these with in one organization. So
Yeah.
It's nice that you recognize that.
Yeah, that's great. And just a reminder too, is we all have, and the link to the quiz on this will show you what percentage you are of each 4 of these. And you can show it differently depending on your stress level or your sleep level, or it could be a zinger of an argument you had with your partner that morning or something. So it could come out, it could be like, oh, they're not usually like this, and as well as knowing for ourselves, right? For self-growth and personal growth and whatnot of, hey, it's just, a lot of green stage organizations will do what's called user guides for each person. And you could say like, hey, I need a moment to transition. So like, don't come gung ho of like, Kim, this is going on and I need your help. And blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I need a minute to focus, or I've got a lot on my plate. I need you to help me understand what you feel the priority is for you. And I can adjust that with all my other priorities and figure out when I can get to you. Right.
Nice.
I see Manny's hand up. I don't see everybody, so if your hand's up, please let me know.
Hello. I
Hi.
was curious. I'm looking at this. I see avoidance, ambivalence, disorganized. For me, in my experience, I can put all those together in the word of apathy when it applies to groups of people or teams, or indifferent about progress or how we're working. Do you see that? Do you agree, disagree, anything about that? Because these look like they apply to people. How would I apply this to a team where you're mixing people together? That may be beyond this theory, but I was just curious.
You can look at it for teams, It's usually what the teams are mostly made of, or who's the strongest personalities in the team.
Okay.
So if there's stronger personalities in the team and they're more avoidant, the team might start as a team functioning that way, right? And if you're approaching them that way, it's being mindful of, are they very much, I've seen teams that were, I guess you would say, more ambivalent, is they're wanting to yes everybody. And it's from a fear-based, right? If we don't yes everybody, we might get laid off, or we might this or that. I don't know, maybe they've been metaphorically beaten up by leadership or something, right? So you're trying to help them not please, but you're helping them understand, like, hey, let's take a breath, and what is the most important thing here, and things like that, right? Yeah.
One more question, ma'am. I've been in environments remotely where all cameras are off
Yeah.
in meetings, right? So as I think about that, I look at avoidant, dismissive, fear of closeness, ambivalent, disorganized. They apply to all of those things. So I was curious about, what do we do with that?
Most likely, I would look at it through the lens of tool number 1 of the organizational evolution. And they might be more in an orange stage organization that is unhealthy orange stage, where they're getting in trouble and they don't want to be seen, right? Or they're being asked to do, you are required to go to this meeting, but you're also required to get this work done by the end of the day. So they're trying to multitask or something like that. Can be a lot of what's going on there. And it's depending on the why, how you approach that, right? Forcing it would not be helpful. It'll be more counterproductive. And sometimes it's just the role modeling. Like, I always have my camera on, even if when I go into an organization and they all have it off, and I would just say, like, hey, I have my camera on, because we all know, and this is from conflict resolution, right, that most communication is visual, and I really want to have clear communication. I'm really wanting you all to understand me. So I'm going to leave it on. And sometimes you'll get folks little by little turning them on. Sometimes it takes weeks of meetings with those people before they're turning it on. Or I'll say, like, okay, like, I'm asking a question. I can't see if you're nodding your head. So either come off on camera so I can see that, or I need you to come off mute to say verbally yes. Like, I have a sense of where everyone's at.
Yeah. We're at 7:07, Kim. I didn't know if you wanted to manage time.
Thank you. I will speed up. So thanks for that, Manny. Great questions. So let's go to the next one. Is, again, we're pushing those growing edges. You're probably going like, oh my goodness, Kim. And we're probably getting full from the buffet, but we're going to trauma theory. And there's a couple reasons why I am talking about it. First, I'm going to explain the kinds that will probably help with the why. There's situational, chronic, and complex. Situational is like experiencing a traumatic event. Chronic is ongoing. So that could be like an abusive boss or abusive coworker, someone who's always teasing you, always putting you down, always saying your work is not good enough, or it could be better, or you're not going fast enough. That is actual trauma, and that wears you down, especially when it's regular. It doesn't have to be every day, but when it's pretty regular. Complex trauma can be ACE, adverse childhood experiences, which I'm going to circle back to in a second. Attachment issues, which we just went over, and other traumas as an adult, like narrowly avoiding a car accident. And that's me as an example. I narrowly avoided a car accident once, and it took me a couple of weeks before I was relaxed and comfortable driving again. I was gripping the steering wheel. I was hyper alert for safety, and is a rabbit crossing the road? Is a car going to swerve out from the middle of nowhere? And it was a very stressful experience for several weeks before my nervous system calmed down. So that's complex traumas. Another way to explain complex trauma is multiple traumas with a lowercase t that add up to trauma with a capital T. Adverse childhood experiences are actually considered trauma. A lot of people might say, hey, I've got a I had a really great childhood. I didn't have any traumatic situational events, right? Or I didn't have any chronic ongoing events, was not, my parents weren't putting me down or anything like that. But you still most likely have some level of adverse childhood experiences. There's a whole list in the references. I'm going to give a couple examples here. One is if your parents divorced and you didn't see one of your parents a lot, that's actually traumatic to a child, and that affects your biology as well as your nervous system into adulthood. It could be that one of your siblings was really great at sports or at music or at whatever, fill in the blank. They were really great at someone. They were seen as the superstar. That is traumatic to a child, again, impacting your adult relationships. The other side of it, having a sibling that was sick all the time and the parents are having to spend more time with them, that is actually causes trauma to a child, let alone the child who's sick is experiencing trauma as well. But so there's those kinds of things. It's worth taking a read of that at the end. So with ACE, they consider that 80 to 90% of the population is considered trauma impacted. And going down to my last bullet here, I should put a star by it. Most psychiatrists say that due to the COVID pandemic, now 100% of the population on this planet is trauma impacted. So we're not saying trauma to the extreme that you can't get out of bed in the morning, that you're crying all day. It's that biologically, the chemical composition of your body, you're reduced in all of the hormones that help you be relaxed and happy. Your nervous system is on that high alert, like I was after that near miss car accident, for safety. And when you're in that, as we all know, that's the hindbrain, that's the fight or flight brain, versus your frontal lobe, which is for complex thinking, be able to problem solve at work and whatnot. So most likely, almost everyone has some level of this impact, and it is impacting how they act in the world. Let us see what to go over with time. So this is a quote, I'm not going to zoom in on it, by Stephen Porges, who's well renowned for trauma. Basically, what his research has shown is that unconsciously, your nervous system is running 24/7, focusing on three questions. Is it safe? Is it dangerous? Or is it life-threatening? It's running in the background 24/7, and it is affecting your behavior unconsciously as well. So it's really important to understand the importance of this all. I'm trying to remember what this is. This is kind of some high-level examples of what trauma, some signs of past, someone who might have experienced trauma in the past. They can apply to other things, like some of the attachment theory stuff and whatnot. We're not diagnosing, we're not assessing. It's just getting a feel of what might be going on. One of the ones I wanted to look at here was the third bullet down, charming strangers, but treating others badly. So you could be on a team and that coworker is treating everyone on the team just awful, but a leader comes in, or another team comes in, or another department comes in, and they are just so nice to them. And you're like, wow. The other thing is having a short fuse, the fast trigger reactive anger. Ongoing anxiety and moodiness and stress can also indicate you're a little higher on that spectrum for trauma. The why I'm explaining this, and I'm going to scream through this right now as an example. This sounds trite, and it sounds like, why are you wasting time giving this example, Kim? But it's really important and impactful. Where someone chooses to sit in a conference room meeting, or when you all go out to lunch, or when you all go out to happy hour, or whatever it is, someone who is higher on the spectrum, more trauma impacted, is hyper vigilant for safety. So they want to sit where they can see the door, and they want to sit where they can see everyone in the room. And you're like, well, who cares? Well, the why you should care, besides, human being caring about another human being, is whatever meeting you're at. And in Agile, we only invite people who are, valuable, important to that meeting. Now that person, a big portion of their attention and focus is on that safety, is on who's coming through the door. I can't see everyone in the room. Someone would have to be turning around a lot, that kind of thing. And you're getting a small percentage of their attention on the problem at hand. What are we planning? What are we trying to resolve? And maybe not even hearing, here's the game plan forward that we're planning on, right? So they're not 100% there. So the more you can, right, we're not diagnosing, we're not assessing, and we're not treating them, we're not counselors, but how we could help is not assuming it's trauma, not assuming it's something else, but noting that, hey, you seem uncomfortable. Is there anything I can do? And they might say, I want to be in that seat. Okay, I'll switch seats with you, right? Something as little as that can help. So now they can have more of their focus on the task at hand.
That's fascinating, Kim. We're at 7:15, by the way.
Thank you. I am seeing that. So the last one I'll go over quickly, and it is tool number 5 is untreatable clinical personality disorders. So I want to be clear, there's many kinds of personality disorders. There's only 2 that are deemed untreatable, and that's NPD and APD, narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. Why they consider it untreatable is they don't think anything is wrong with them, so they don't go for treatment. Why I'm talking to you about it for an Agile leadership, a valuable tool for Agile leadership, is that about 10% total of the population is considered to have these personality disorders. It is an estimate because they're not self-identifying. And the most important part is higher percentages are in leadership positions. So that's in corporations, in religious organizations, in government organizations, you name it. There's a higher percentage there. So you've probably come across them. And the star here to note is they will both tell you what you want to hear, and then they're going to do whatever they want. So I'm sure a lot of you are nodding right now, like, I've met someone, I've worked with someone like that before, right? Or had a leader like that, and they were very gung-ho, and they seemed so supportive and like, yes, we should do that. And they walked out of the meeting and they either dropped it or they started saying the opposite. So you want to, again, meet them where they're at is understanding that that's what's happening. In those scenarios, I'm not going to read the description there. If you're suspecting someone is higher on the spectrum as well, higher on the spectrum for, I'm talking about clinical, not someone who's just arrogant or whatever. We're talking about clinical narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, which is also called sociopath. At that point, you want to make sure you're getting things in writing. So in Agile, we want to have that face-to-face interaction. I think that's great. With them, you need to be writing down like, okay, we're agreeing to this. I'm sending an email that this is what we agreed in the meeting. Can you please respond back that this is what you're recalling, this is what we agreed to. You need to start doing that to help with the situation. The other thing to note with this situation is, it's not me, but the psychiatrist will say, you will not win with these people. You don't know where their tripwires are. So they're very charming, so everyone loves them. They're very manipulative. They are using you to get what they want. And if they're not getting what they want out of you, they will drop you, stop interacting with you. And will say things to people like, no, I didn't have a meeting for an hour with that person. I never talked to them about this. When you did, and they were agreeing and saying how great you were. Or they might go after you. And how that looks is they will try to tarnish your reputation to the point of trying to get you fired. And since they're so charming, a lot of times HR and other people around will see their sides of things and you will be fired. To the extreme, which is quite rare, they could get violent. That's quite rare. but I'm more concerned for you all to know about the fact that you can't win with them, and you either want to change divisions or change companies. And I know that takes time to do. And how best to interact with them in the meantime. There is reference on that, as well as similarities and differences. One I want to call out is you cannot, for a narcissistic personality disorder person, you cannot make them wrong. You cannot insinuate they're wrong. You cannot insinuate that they could do something better. That's when they're going to write you off. And you never know when you're going to trip that wire. You could say something that you think is totally neutral, and they felt you were insinuating they could do something better, and that's it. Right? Whereas antisocial personality disorder sociopaths, they don't care if you think they're wrong, because they think everyone is stupid. So they really don't care what you think. Right? They're just going to yes you, because yesing you is the fastest way to get the conversation over and get you out of their office so they can do what they want to do. So that's a bigger difference, but I have some more there as well. So we're not going to go over this example, but I think you get the gist of people coming out of a meeting and saying the opposite of what was agreed upon. And usually with VPs, which was my example, they're usually too big to fail. So in the situation I was in, coaching a group of 10, 12 VPs, they wouldn't fire him because they were afraid he would sue them and they wouldn't be able to win in court. So they were, and this is my conversation with the CEO on this. And this is what he told me. He said, we're just hoping that he gets another job or that he retires. And he was derailing a company and harming their bottom line, their profits, a company of like 200 people. So anyhow, this is not to be doom and gloom. This is information so you can meet people where they're at. Here's all the 5 tools again, and definitely reach out to me. I will flip through real quick the reference screens. If you want to screenshot them, you'll have them on the recording, and you'll have them in PDF if you so choose. So starting to flip, and then we'll get those questions ready. Okay. This is the reference for tool number 1, organizational evolution, giving more wording and business examples of orange-green comparison, as well as the book on it, which is Reinventing Organizations by Lalou. This is tool number 2, healthy conflict resolution skills. These are 2 other conflict resolution skill approaches that a lot of Agilists use. 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse on the left is by the Gottman Institute. Responsibility Matrix is by Christopher Avery. You can download this free poster on his website. Attachment theory, here's reference material for this tool. More wording on all 4 attachment styles with 2 links at the top right-hand corner that are to Diane Poole-Heller's work. She is very well known for that in the United States, maybe the world. And then there's the quiz that'll tell you what percentages you have of all 4 of those as well. Tool number 4, trauma theory. Here's a list of the 10 most common ACEs for you to read through. On the left, there's some links with a quiz to see how your ACEs are. And the book Relationship RX by Stan Tatkin. I like it because it's 3 for the price of 1, so to speak. He goes over attachment theory, trauma theory, and neuroscience. He is talking about romantic partnership, but all the skills are applicable to all relationships, including business ones. I found this very useful in my interactions with organizations and people. Reference material for tool number 5, untreatable clinical personality disorders. I put together on the right some similarities and differences. Why, for example, you can't make a narcissistic personality disorder person wrong, but a sociopath won't care. So some of those things of like knowing, helping how you can interact until you can find another position away from them. The DSM-5 is the book on all personality disorders. It will help you go to sleep at night. And then Martha Stout, PhD, wrote The Sociopath Next Door. And outsmarting the sociopath next door, you actually really can't outsmart them. The wording above it is how to protect yourself against them. It helps you get to see it in context, because there's probably people, you know, on the PTA, on the kids' soccer teams, those parents could have some of this as well. And again, it's helping be aware so you know how to interact better. And if that's not enough, I'm going to be giving this talk again, so I'd appreciate anyone being willing to type in the chat, wows, what went well, and how abouts, what would make it even better. And there we go. Thank you we're finished the buffet. Now you can digest. And I can stop sharing here.
Thank you so much, Kim. There was a question earlier, kind of circling back to that role modeling. Sammy had asked about what would be a gentle nudge to invite people to have their cameras on. That was the first question.
The gentle nudge to have their cameras on, it's the why of the situation. So it depends. If you suspect the why is they're doing other work, you might want to help them, especially like in a retro or something like that, of what's going on, to try to right load them. I found,
what does right load mean?
well, the sustainable pace, right? Of how can we help that to happen? Usually the impediments are coming from leadership, who are pressuring them to say yes to a lot of work they know they can't do. So then it's coaching with leadership, right? Sometimes like when we teach online classes, it's a prerequisite. Videos are on, or else you're not allowed to be at class. For meetings, it can be like, you can use the example of myself, like a lot of times I'll just have my video on, I explain why, and I'll explain it at every freaking meeting. Right? When there's a misunderstanding, I would say something like, yeah, if we had our cameras on, we would have saw that you looked quizzical, or we would have saw that you were shaking your head. Maybe we should try turning our cameras on for a little bit. Like something like that. So
yeah, thanks, Kim.
I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, it does, definitely. I was kind of thinking just in sort of work scenarios, like doing sort of presentations to the organization, or even just to a domain or a team where there might be 10, 50 or 100 people there. I don't want to sort of call them out and go, hey, you know, are you doing something else? Do we need to escalate something? But I kind of just always have my camera on and sort of invite people, hey, have your cameras on if you want, or show me some way that you're going to interact with me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially when it's bigger groups. You can say like, hey, you know, when I'm facilitating today, a big part of facilitation is seeing how people react. So I'd really appreciate if you would turn on your cameras, because that'll help me make this a better experience for you. Right, just like you were saying. Yeah. Any other questions that I've missed in the chat?
I haven't seen any other questions, but for everybody here in the room, please speak up. But from my experience, I have experimented with doing scavenger hunts virtually, and so everybody has to have their video on, and then we play with that, and then we do a retro about that. Like, why was that beneficial? How was that helpful? Because they were able to demonstrate, we could see everybody's reaction. So that was a helpful activity for them to understand the why it's important to have your videos on. And it was a fun activity.
And for green stage teams, that is great. For orange stage, where it's a really unhealthy, toxic environment, that wouldn't work, and that would backfire left, right, and sideways, right? Where they would start going to their leadership and you would be told, you do not force them to put video on. because it's that bad. And now you've lost face in front of the team as to what changes we can make and how I can really be helpful for you. So it's really delicate as to the why.
Yeah,
And-
so help us
and
understand the
what
orange,
stage
the
they're-
orange. Yeah, help us understand the orange.
Yeah, I mean, healthy orange, they might just be resistant because, you know, they're being told what to do left, right, sideways, and they could just have some resistance, right? Or no one ever said, no one ever explained the why. Like, hey, if I can see your head nodding, now this meeting will be 15 minutes instead of 45 minutes of me waiting for people to put in the chat yes or no, or people are understanding. So like you see, it's making it a lot longer, and they don't want it to be longer, right? Some things like that is how to share with an orange. If it's just healthy orange, they just don't know, versus a real toxic, right? Talking about psychological safety. There's no psychological safety. That could be challenging as well. And you don't know the why. I've worked with international teams where like they just don't have the internet bandwidth. And if they go on video, they're going to be dropping the call a gazillion times during the call. And now they can't even participate. So then sometimes we're like, turn it on real quick at the beginning, just we'll say hi to everybody. And, you know, like you were saying, whether it's a scavenger hunt or wear your favorite sports team shirt or something, or your favorite hat, and then, okay, turn it off. We know we need to save bandwidth, and, you know, having it on and off once in a while during the meeting, potentially, but that could be enough for them to lose connectivity as well. So it's the why. It's always the why.
Always the why. Always the why. Yeah. So we're at 7:30. Any other questions or anything, any closing remarks?
Wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Some of the points where exactly I have seen those behaviors and it's like clicked to me. Oh my God, that was the personalities, you know, so that, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I know it was a lot. This is not my typical, but I was really attached to, like, at least that you have the ideas and you can go research more, or, you know, like I said, I did a deep dive for tool number 1 already, which was fun with folks, because it's like I was trying to spend time with questions as well to give you some more concrete examples of like, how can this apply, and how can I meet people better and have a better conversation, right? And you know, it can be to an extreme. I've come into companies before where I was coaching with, it was a division of like 1,000 people, but one of the people who's a director level, I came in and the leadership said, we're in the process of trying to fire her, but legal won't let us fire her yet because we don't have enough data points yet. You know, good luck, see what you can do. Right? And that scenario was that orange stage, green stage scenario, where she had come from a division in the organization that was green stage. And the division I was at was very orange stage. And the orange stage people said, she's disrupting our meetings. She's not doing, you know, we all da-da-da-da-da. And she was coming from collaboration. She was coming from diversity of opinions and sharing. And they were so upset with her, they were going to fire her. Right? That's what was going on. Like the coaches, I was coaching the coach as well, the train level coaches for a couple of trains. I made them come with me to meet with her. And they're like, oh no, we don't want to. We're done with her. And I'm like, no, I need you to come with me. I need you to see, because I need you to learn. We're coaching the coach. I need you to learn, and we're going to debrief afterwards. Did you see what I did? Within a half an hour, I scheduled an hour meeting. Within a half an hour, it was very clear what was going on. I was able to share with her. I didn't say orange or green, but I was saying they're not as far along in the adoption process. So they're not there yet for the ideas you're sharing. The ideas are awesome, but they're not there yet. And she understood. They, on the other hand, could hear me saying, like, she's further along on the adoption process, agile adoption process. And yeah, she was not understanding that there's steps that have to happen before the ideas she was suggesting could happen. And all of a sudden things shifted once she understood. And it was like, they stopped the whole firing process. And we're talking director level, right? That's huge. I helped coach her a little bit more on how to interact with them versus you should do this. And they can't even understand how to do this, right? Crawl, walk, run. They were crawling and she's like giving them running examples. So we ramped that back a little bit and they started to see the things she was asking. They could kind of like grok, but it can be that severe. Right. And they were going to fire her. And I'm like, no, keep her. She's not an Agile coach, but she knew how to be an Agile leader. Right. So it's really great to understand those and just know how to do the language versus saying, oh, you're orange and you're green. And that's why this is happening. That's not helpful. And green have orange in them, right? We're integrating, so it's not a bad thing, right? We need to have revenue and we need to have plans, and all of those are really good things in a healthy way. And then they're just adding these pieces. So I'm hoping that that's a helpful real life example as well, and that you can percolate. And definitely reach out to me offline if you have other scenarios. I'm glad to give some, like, hey, here's things.
Glad you said that, Kim, because I think throughout your presentation there's just been so much gold, and normally, I'm sort of like looking for it and just picking out a little bit here, but I'm just like grabbing everything, taking screenshots, like you said. So yeah, I probably will be reaching out to you. So yeah, thank you very much.
No,
Really
I'm so sorry. I know it was a lot. I just couldn't detach. I'm like, I have to put them all together. So, these are things that have taken me years and I've learned the hard way, right? I've lost consulting gigs by not knowing this, right? By talking green to an orange organization. They thought I was awful, and they're like, your services are no longer needed, right? And not knowing about narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial, especially as a consultant, you need to be aware of that, because you need to have your exit plan. You need to get out in a way that they're not going to be mad at you, so they still pay you, because there's always a clause that if they don't like what you did, they're not paying you. Yeah. It's always a clause in those independent contracts. So it's good to be aware, and then all the other things in between. Again, when you're coaching, especially one-on-one, and me being a mediator, conflict resolution consultant, a lot of folks will hire me because it's like I bring multiple things in addition to the Agile transformation coaching and executive coaching. And once you understand where they're coming from, it's like, oh, that person's not being difficult. Oh, they might be more avoidant attachment style, or they might be a little bit higher trauma impacted. Now you're not pushing them, and then they're going to put, anyone pushes me, I'm going to push back, right? It's a normal, natural response. So it's how can we get there, and then we can have that, the organizations are like, we've been trying with this person for a year, you've been here for a month. And they're like, it's completely turned around. And I'd love to say I'm awesome, but I'm normal. It's just, I'm meeting them where they're at, and then we can really make some forward traction. Right.
Yeah, it's literally a physics response. You push, you will get pushed back.
Yep. Yeah. Good point. So, so again, all these organizations can have some of these traits, whether it's organization as a whole. I've worked with organizations, but a lot of the teams were green, or maybe individuals were green, or maybe one of the VPs was green. So I explain things to them differently. And sorry, I'm starting to get into my talk for tool number 1. So
it sounds great.
More examples.
It sounds like we should, Agile Boulder should have you back in 2024 for some of these deeper dives.
I'd be glad to. That would be fun. That'd be fun, especially with at least with tool number 1, I can give some more like concrete examples. If you're trying to help them understand the benefit of this, here's how you say it to a green person. Here's how you say, whether it's a team person or a leader or whoever, here's how you say it to the orange, and that type of thing. And I do emphasize to invite them to take the next small step forward. So you're not just the small step forward could be they're understanding it at the stage they're at and they're willing to try the new thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions or closing remarks? So as the organizer here, guys, what I will do is Meetup has a cool little tool for those that have attended. I'm able to contact you very specifically, and I will send out any materials Kim is happy to share out with you guys, along with any SEUs you guys are able to earn by being here and participating.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing? I'm seeing a comment, and I know Manny's still not here, but some people will say Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
And what I say is, if you're in the office, you can't turn yourself off. Right. The benefit on Zoom is you only have to look nice from like the waist up. So you can I wear my yoga pants, or you can wear your Hawaiian shorts or whatever. Right. But people are going to see you in the office. Whether you're working from home or in the office, people are going to see you. So
that's an interesting point, actually. I won't now, but I wouldn't mind having more of a discussion about that, because I sort of feel with Zoom fatigue, it's because I'm looking at the camera and I'm sort of focusing on it, rather than I'm sitting in the room and you're still sat over there and I'm still listening to you and just not maybe giving that focus. Yeah, maybe there's more to it. I haven't really thought about it that much.
I do know, I'm not sure about all the apps, but I like in Zoom, you can actually turn the picture of yourself off so you don't have to look at yourself, which can be fatiguing as well. I think some of the other apps are starting to do that. I'm not 100% sure on that. Or if you maximize the speaker, then you're not really having to look at yourself, that can be tiring, right? So, and training from the back of the room training, I don't get any money from it, but they do teach you how to give trainings and presentations and facilitate, and they've adopted it during COVID to do an online one, and they teach you about every 10 minutes, which I don't know how well I did incorporating that, is having people do something. So even if it's like, everyone wave at the camera, okay, we're done. And then we go on, like it's taking a little movement break is what they call it, as well as they suggest what we didn't do tonight is no longer than 50 minutes at a time without an actual break, like 7 minute. More than 7 minutes, you're context switching. So, and it does keep people focused a little bit more on 7 versus 10. They'll come back more on time, but some of those things can help as well. So,
All right.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. On that note, I think we should close out. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and look forward to an email from Meetup. It will be coming from me with some details.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Have a good
Thank you.
day, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you.